Guys, welcome to a brand new video. I thought I would put together just a list of wallet busting tips to get you started on a Master System collection. Or if, like me, you already have the collection already started and you're looking to try and get it completed, then hopefully some of these tips will prove useful. This all came about because I got back from doing the weekly shop in Sainsbury's, as you do. And I just thought, blimey, the price of everything's gone up. You know, like the shop this week was much more than normal. And every time I go, we buy usually the same old stuff, you know, much like anyone else, I guess. But the price just seems to, you know, when you go to checkout, you just seem to be giving them more money every time you go. So I thought I would put this together. Just before I do, I know Retro Gamer Boy did something for the Mega Drive that was similar, and to fair play to him, he had quite a bit of facts, figures, quite a lot of substance behind it in terms of doing the homework. First of all, this is not going to be that sort of video. I'm not looking to you know, prove to you the price of certain games, how much they've increased. Although there will be a little bit of talk about that, I'm sure. But yeah, that's not what the video is. Although I do recommend you go check it out. You know, it's interesting. He does his Mega Drive thing. I'm more all about the Master System, as I'm sure if you've seen some of my stuff before, you'll be very well aware. Also, I did a video contribution to Retro Ed's top saver tips. So I do recommend you go out and check out Ed's videos and his channel anyway. But I was on one of his videos, which was a whole bunch of collectors that were talking about various hints, tips, where to go, what to do, you know, that sort of thing. And the video that I'm doing right now is going to be more similar to that, but I wanted to make it Master System focused, really. That said, a lot of what we talk about, a lot of the tips that I want to try and share with you, they're all sort of common sense stuff. None of it's really a silver bullet, so to speak. So I'm sure you could apply it to other collections as well. So with that said, let's get into it. So first and foremost, my top tip, and I had mentioned it in the other video that I did for Ed anyway, but it's very much set yourself a goal. I think if you don't set yourself a goal, you're kind of going to fall into the kid in a sweet shop trap, and you're just going to buy anything that catches your eye. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. It's just with the price of everything skyrocketing and kind of going through the roof at the moment, including retro games, of course, you're not gonna see the most return on investment or get to the end of anything really. So I definitely say start with the end in mind. Really think where you want to be, even if you just want to pick up a few games that you used to play when you were younger. Make a list of what they are and where you want to be. Set yourself a target, and if you can, give yourself a deadline to do it as well. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with your goals moving or you moving the goalposts whenever you want to. In fact, I'd probably encourage that. But by having some kind of goal, you're going to be able to set yourself targets, and you're going to know when something comes up, because I dare say you'll be watching the prices of stuff all the time, like I am at the moment with a lot of the stuff I'm looking at. So you'll know when a good price comes up and when to take advantage of that. So with that said, next tip is buy it now. What I mean by that, and there's lots of buy it nows on eBay, of course, that's not what I mean. What I do mean is there are certain games that when they come up, you should definitely buy them then and there, even if the price might seem a little bit high. So I've got one or two games to sort of give examples of. And it's going to sound a bit bonkers, But for the Master System in particular, when certain games come up, so long as the seller isn't absolutely taking the mick, you know, as long as you're not absolutely trying to have it away, then you should definitely consider just buying. Just biting the bullet if you can, if you've got the funds, dipping into your pocket and just getting it. For example, Home Alone. So with Home Alone, this one is getting rarer and rarer and harder to find. It does come up more often in Europe, and you can usually find it either in France or Germany. There are various different routes to market. But even if, you know, it comes up in the UK, I would definitely recommend that you get this when you see it, even if the price might be a little bit eye-watering. Now, that's not to say that it's a good game, but going back to, I suppose, tip 1, starting with the end in mind, I always wanted a complete set. So when I got the opportunity to get this, I absolutely took it. And I'm glad that I did, because the price is just going up and up. But honestly, this is really, really hard to find. And it doesn't come up on eBay very often at all. So when you do get the opportunity to get it, I recommend that you do. There are a few other games, of course, that when they come up, I definitely recommend that you get them. But this one for sure. That kind of brings me on to decide what you want. I've got a couple of other mates that they collect just cartridge only, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that at all. It's probably a very sensible thing to do, because there aren't all that many other people doing it, so they're probably saving a ton of money, to be honest with you. So if you're just after that badge of a full set and you're really not bothered about getting stuff that's unboxed, then CEX and places like that can definitely be your friend. Personally, I really like going for the box art. So I'm not really fussed about the manuals. And although I am quite close to a complete set, there's a few that don't have the manuals. The expensive ones, you know, when I picked them up, just so happens that they do all have the manuals. So if I ever wanted to go back and get the manuals, for the other ones, I wouldn't have to worry too much about the real big hitters, so to speak. But if like me, you're quite happy just to have a boxed version without the manual, then again, you can save yourself quite a bit of money. I did that. So I did that with this one, Danan the Jungle Fighter. It's not coming down in price anytime soon, and in fact I've spotted it on eBay for well over 100 quid. Is it worth over 100 quid? Honestly, you know, the way prices are going, maybe not, to be honest with you. But it is trickier to find. Is it rare? No, not particularly, but I don't have the manual. Am I bothered? No, not really. I really like the box art. It looks absolutely lovely on my shelf, and you know, honestly, I'm not really bothered about having the manuals for these games. One thing I have kind of, as I near the end of the set, I am gonna go for the manuals just to keep me doing the hobby that I love. But I have already slowed down quite a lot, just with the cost of living, the cost of fuel, you know, gas, electric, everything going through the roof and whatnot. Even, yeah, my shopping at Sainsbury's. Yeah, I have slowed down, you know, and I think it's sensible to. But anyone, if you're starting from scratch, then I definitely recommend think about what you want. You know, going back to lesson 1, like I said, start with the end in mind. My buddy Dudley of Yesterzine, I think he's more than happy to go with boxed only, like I am. There's another lad, Spangle, I think he's called. Really nice guy on Twitter. He's just going for cartridges, and there's nothing, you know, if he's happy, then, you know, fair play to him. But if you've got to go, particularly with the Master System stuff, for completing box, then be prepared to spend a lot of money. Now that kind of brings me on to my next point, my next tip. As much as that tip was buy it now, my next tip is take your time. It's not a race, and you've got the rest of your life, unless you really are trying to get, sprint and do it as quickly as you possibly can. Personally, I got very addicted to doing this, to the point where sometimes, as a gamer, I actually preferred collecting, and that taking up my time more than playing any of my games. And I play, a lot of modern games as well. So I'd really recommend take your time. You've got a long time to do this, and just because you see something crop up doesn't mean you have to buy it there and then straight away. If you can wait for certain games to come down in price, or for you to get yourself a bargain, then do. So this is another rare one that's creeping up in price. It's Asterix The Great Rescue, and I actually picked this up in France. I'm very fortunate. I've got family that live in France. I was able to get it posted to them, and they posted it to me as a gift, so I didn't even pay import tax. So I got this for about 20-25 euros, something like that, last year, and yeah, saved myself a fair bit of money. But I took my time and waited for a copy to come up that was cheap, so I definitely recommend on some of the games that you've seen them cheaper, and maybe you've just missed out or been a bit unlucky, or someone's just beaten you to it, then I definitely recommend take your time. Of course, there are some games that, as I'd mentioned previously, buy them straight away, like that copy of Home Alone. And if you're going for the full set, then these two really are going to be grails. Now, I'm very lucky to own these ones, and I got them when they were still, they still were silly prices, but not as silly as that. There's a copy of Buggy Run on eBay at the minute for 599 quid. It's definitely not worth that. Definitely not. In fact, I've bought 4 copies of this in the last 10 months. So I can tell you now, it's not even. It's rare, but it's not stupidly rare. Do you know what? It's not rare, it's scarce. I would say the Master System in general is one of the easier full sets to go for. If you're going for the full 269. It's taken a lot of dedication, a lot of my time, which I've really enjoyed. I love the thrill of the hunt, but I definitely recommend, picking these ones up if you spot them quick, if they're reasonable, Anyway, the reason I bring these up is going back to one of the other lessons that or tips that we've already covered. You can pick different variants up. And if you're quite happy to go with other variants of the same game, like my buddy Alan at Irish Nerd Life, I think he's got a couple of the games that are tech toy variants. I know Dudley certainly has. I remember seeing his video of it. But you can pick up both Masters of Combat and Buggy Run tech toy versions from Brazil for like about half the price of what they're going for over here. So if you're not fussed about the variant that you go for, then I definitely recommend that you do. Okay, so the next tip is get involved and use the tools that you've got with things like social media and forums. For the Master System in particular, there's 2 particularly great forums on 2 brilliant websites. They're full of information that people have put on there for years. And SMS Power and SMS Tributes are great for talking to people that share the passions that you have. There may not be the traffic or the volume of people using the forums as there were 10, 15 years ago. Even 5 years ago, it's quietened down quite a bit. But I go on there every single week, and there's definitely people on there that know a lot more about this hobby than I do. that can help you out and teach you. They can teach you about the different variants of games or stuff that came with the games if you want to go for certain stuff. So as an example, I never knew on World Cup 94, actually a little poster that came with it as well. And with the Codemaster games, there's posters that came with Fantastic Dizzy and Micro Machines and Cosmic Spacehead. So, you know, posters that came with them if you wanted, you know, the original complete. Now, to buy those, they do go for a premium on eBay, you know. So it's just really, how far do you want to take your hobby? And if you really want to learn a lot and learn everything that you possibly can, which is a lot of fun, then I definitely recommend that you go away and do your homework. And that's how you do your homework, speaking to fellow enthusiasts. I do quite a lot on Twitter because that's I came off social media altogether a lot of years ago, but it was only about 3 or 4 years ago that I went back onto Twitter, and I only wanted to cover retro gaming because that was an interest, and I wanted to talk and engage with people that had, you know, that shared the hobby that I do. You know, when I started doing it, unfortunately, there was no one really doing Master System stuff. And I didn't at the time really want to go back onto Facebook. And that's, even now, I'm not on Facebook very often, you know. So, but I definitely recommend that you get on the forums, on social media, and you talk to, you know, fellow collectors, fellow enthusiasts, because everyone combined know a lot more than you do, and you will learn things surprisingly quickly. That kind of brings me quite nicely on to the next point. So, by rubbing shoulders with collectors, by talking to other collectors, then you're not only going to learn an awful lot more, but I bumped into probably 2 or 3 key people over the last couple of years. And as an example, my buddy Pedder, a lot of you all know who Pedder is. If not, please drop me a message in the comments. I'll gladly put you in touch. But I was looking to give my collection a real kickstart, and I wanted to buy 100 games in one transaction, which I did about 18 months, 2 years ago, something like that. And my buddy Andy put me in touch with Pedder, and Pedder was quite happy to agree a price, and I think I ended up buying 101 games off him for like £1,000, which gave me a real kickstart in the collection, which was fantastic. And actually, thinking about it, I think Pedder has well over 100 games left in his collection. So if there's anybody out there that wants to do what I did and give yourself a real kickstart in your collection, then I'm more than happy to put you in touch with him. And yeah, you know, get in touch. I'm sure he'd be quite happy to have a chat with you, you know. He's got loads left, actually. So so yeah, definitely get in touch with him. Top lad, complete gentleman as well. But there were other collectors along the way that had some of the rarer stuff as well that I wanted to get chatting with, and I had a really good laugh with them along the way as well. So I definitely recommend contacting new collectors. And you know, it's not a silver bullet. There's going to be no one out there that's going to be, you know, oh, 8-Bit Boy, thank God you've come along. I've got all these games that I'm desperate to pass on. You can have them for nothing. You know, that's not going to happen, unfortunately. And nor should it really. Most collectors have paid a pretty penny for their games themselves, or they've had them for a very, very long time, and they've probably got quite a bit of sentimental value. So I definitely recommend having a chat with collectors. You'll probably save yourself a few quid. You'll probably learn an awful lot, and you'll probably make a friend or two along the way as well. So yeah, I definitely have a chat with some fellow collectors as and when you get the chance. So finally, I guess my final tip really would be get out and explore, get out retro hunting. Make yourself a YouTube channel if you like I have and so many others have. Do pickups videos. But get out there and get out to retro events, gaming markets. Definitely get out to independent games shops and stores. They're dotted around all over the place, and more recently the magazine Sega Powered, on the back page they've actually listed a lot of the shops that you can go to. I've got a copy here actually, so this is one of the copies that I had, and if you go, he says, there you go. So if you go to like fourth from last page, something like that, you've got all of these listed shops here all over the country, and I definitely recommend that you think about visiting, certainly the ones that are nearer to you. They're not all over the place, and unfortunately there are very few towns that have 4 or 5 of them, you know, because these are just regular people like me and you that usually they're collectors themselves. I've got one in particular that I go to up in Morecambe. Really nice bloke, and he's a fellow collector as well. But he's had, you know, a gaming shop for 20, 30 years, you know. So he knows a lot about everything, really, and he's really helped me out. So I definitely recommend that you get out to the shops, because usually you'll bag yourself a bit of a bargain as well. But the more of these things that you go to, like gaming events, gaming markets, stuff like that, even car boot sales, you know, it's gone are the days where you can pick up, you know, a dozen Master System games in, you know, one car boot sale. And unfortunately, you'd be very, very fortunate. But that's not to say that it can't be done to pick up. You know, I went to a charity shop last year and I picked up a Master System game that I spotted. So they do come up. So I definitely recommend that you get yourself out there and hunting these, you know, these games down. Definitely. A lot of the time with the shops in particular, you can give them you can message them on Facebook, that sort of thing, you know. Guys, anyway, that's it. That's kind of the everything discussed, done, tips done. If you enjoyed the vid, then please give me a thumbs up. I really appreciate your time. Thanks ever so much, guys. All the best.